That's Tito. I'm Nate. This is what we call Nate. This is what we call Tito. And this is an introduction to the introduction, a preface to the preface, if you will, an examination of what the potential is of this video and all that follow it in a channel that I'm calling Intrasection. So first off, just notice that I have no green screen. The green of the screen is what we call nature. I'm not wearing any mics. I'm not using auto-tune. You have to deal with my voice that is real, that I can't really hear, or what I hear is much differently than you. I'm not dolled up in a way that has an attractive aesthetic to make it alluring to want to even listen to. And the reason all of those things are part of this video series is because I believe in the moment, the plan of not having a plan, spontaneity, and somewhat impulsiveness can keep you on a path of authenticity, kind of a path of no path, the way is no way kind of type thinking, and we'll get into that. And the reason I'm making those conscious choices because I believe that when you create the backdrop and try to sit into something to prepare to do things, doll yourself up in order to seem more attractive, there are these subtle manipulations and things become scripted. And that would tell me that you are losing more of that authenticity. So what would be unique? What would be original? Certainly not that. So that's the attempt to make this series. Now, the series is called Intrasection. What is that? So if we can look kind of where I'm sitting right now, I'm at an intersection. I have a choice of going left. I have a choice of going this way. I have a choice of going this way to my right. I can even venture out into the desert there. But for the most part, here, or here. The intersection. Now that exists in the physical plane. My physical body has choices for movement. Movement that also perpetuates the illusion that time is linear. Even in my physiology, my eyes are cast forward through an explanation that science says is because as we've evolved and adapted as a species that hunts prey, our eyes are forward, where prey has adapted to keep their eyes on the side. They can see more of the periphery of what is coming after them and behind, right? Or could it be, because I don't necessarily want to attach to a single thing, I want to be able to expand my mind, not attached to anything, believing all things or believing nothing, because in the middle of belief is a L-I-E, lie, and paints us in a corner to limited perceptions, thus the inability to develop compassion or empathy. So another theory could be that our physiology with our eyes set forward is so that when I look forward, it accentuates the concept that there is a future. To that bush right there, I'm not yet there. It is future. As close as I can come to anything is right here in the present. But now this future comes in to be my present. So now I'm here with it. It took time to do so. So we have where my dog was, future, here is the present, and now anything behind me that I've gone through I have past. It is now in my past. And since I can't see it, I have to attach to a story or develop one. So then there is the story, his story, history. Our physiology perpetuates the illusion that time is linear. Future, present, past. The reason I bring that up is because that it accentuates the idea that time is linear in this physical place. And our choices of movement are kind of in a foundation that there are options, but they're limited to an intersection, left, forward, right. I can go back beyond. Now, if we were to transcend that physical space and to paradoxically let go in order to connect, we can experience more of an etheric or an astral realm, and even deeper, in a higher level of consciousness, this self-awareness, which ironically is a sensation that there is no self. Well, it's most certainly not what we call as our name. This is what we call Nate. That's why I even say that, because the more I say this is what we call Nate, that's just a name that was given so I can have some kind of type of egoic placeholder to perceive things. But the things that I'm perceiving is an extension of something else that I'm well aware of. And examining that really makes me understand more deeply what free will is, what sovereignty is, which I truly believe, and I'm careful to use that word. But I think about as being freely and willingly going along with something greater than myself in a co-creation. So, all of those thought processes can not necessarily remove me from my physical space, because I am to be here now. And when I am here now, again, the irony, the paradox, when I am here now in presence, I can leave here now, or understand that I am all places, all things, including this self, in order to identify that those things are happening, not just to me, but all things everywhere. So the intrasection is very similar to that physical explanation of an intersection, but more of an etheric or astral experience, where the options aren't just left, right, forward, or back, but left, right, forward, or back, and kitty corner up into an absolute other realm that we deem to be higher and attribute that to being something comparative in a hierarchy, or going inward, deeper, examining theories that suggest that maybe all of this is an absolute projection. Therefore, there must be a projector, and it might be within me, or perhaps, once again, co-creating with something else higher than myself, in which people get caught up in the semantics of it, either denying God or other explanations that are all the same thing. Grand designer, Godhead, Big Bang, whatever the story in history, explaining the same thing. So the intrasection, this model of being in a focal point, the here and now, this moment, which is super hard to do because there's this device that is recording this, and although I'm in my authentic self, there's still this voyeur, right? There's still a reason. There's still something that I'm speaking to. And if we understand the double slit experiment, then we understand that the mere act of observing anything changes that which is being observed. So if I'm having a device to observe me, there is a subtle act, a role, an identity that is not being authentic in order to do so. So now, full circle, you can understand the true intent of all of these is to try to get to the most authentic self all the while knowing it's an impossibility, because there is no absolute. And again, paradoxically, which is why I love these philosophies, is that if you're kind of seeking or pursuing maybe an absolute truth while simultaneously denying it, there is movement. The universe is movement. Law of vibration suggests that everything is vibrating. That's the reason we can even see it. But in that movement, it's constant because I'm not attached to anything, and I'm not going to find it. So I can keep moving always, kind of like the proverbial carrot, but it's just an exploration of what is, accepting what is while simultaneously denying it. So that's that. It's that and so much more. Understanding that probably the main issue with this video series that I recognize and that I've been told several times is that I have the tendency to speak tangentially and have massive segues and kind of speak in circles. And that's just who I am, and I've accepted it, and I've tried to simplify things, and I think that I do in certain occasions when I say, if you can just let go, you'll connect. It's pretty fucking simple. But then people are like, well, how do I let go? I'm like, well, see, here we go. That's exactly what is happening, and probably should be happening, is the more we can ask why, we put ourselves into a path. Accepting what is, but also trying to round ourselves off by adding more and more perspectives to that isness. Reasons that we don't attach to. So this series is also long form, because I think we need to go the exact opposite of fostering an acceptance for these 30-second or minute reels that perpetuate people's lack of attention and scrolling. My theory is that if we can do the exact opposite and maybe go into long form conversation, what I'm actually doing is asking people to focus more. And if I do go on a tangent or a segue, it is up to you and myself to be able to come back full circle to the topic at hand. And we can if we just trust each other. If people would not only just trust themselves, but trust others trusting themselves. So that's it. That's what the intersection is. Long form, unplanned, spontaneous, in the moment, monologue, conversation with self, higher self, others that are other selves, in a setting that is always going to change. Not using any brand recognition other than the products my friends make, that is probably completely inaccessible to anybody else, because you'd actually have to just fucking come here and not order it online. Videos that might have a point and might not, but what they do is kind of nurture this idea that if our main issue in this dimension is time and space, then we could, quite honestly, try to develop this efficiency to expedite things and make things quicker, snippets. But what does that do? Allows us to chuck more shit in to our day under the guise of efficiency, or actually take the time to understand it, to set aside time and mine things more deeply to find nuggets of truth. A truth that I don't necessarily believe to be an absolute or anything that anyone should attach to. Long form conversation, just bullshitting, maybe just voyeurism towards a 50-year-old's ways of processing, and admittedly a tinge of fear that I'll forget, that what I call Nate will forget, and is making just a recording in order to remember again into our humanity. An intersection that, like the flower of life, has a Godhead and a circle around it that represents an awareness, and an awareness of that, these concentric circles, making things not in a 2D, but a 3D. And in the center is us having these conversations. Presence. Not just like, okay, no, I'm listening, but deeply being a place that I argue paradoxically places you all places. All right, that's probably enough for today. Probably enough forever and always. Peace.